Okay. This is first time I'm speaking here in front of you, so please excuse me if I will not do good thing with this. Okay, I will try to be loud enough that everybody hear me. So Gaspar already said I come from southeast of Slovenia. We actually there have only one or maybe two small hills for paragliding, but more or less there is a flatland. And this is the reason why I really like to come here in Socha Valley, because I think that this area is one of the most, the best places for paragliding on the world. Today I prepare one presentation of competition flying. Of course, this is, let's say, what is important for competition flying. I started with paragliding in '99, and then I started competition paragliding in 2001. So after 2 years from the first flights, I was already involved in paragliding competitions. So here we can see in first part I will explain some, let's say, tips or skills for paragliding for the competition. Then in second part, the longest one will be what are actually task goals. And in the part 3 there will be one task route presentation, and that's more or less everything in this presentation. On the end, maybe last thing will be just a short summary of what I have said in this presentation. So I will start with the theory of climbing. Let's say around 10 years ago, I studied a few articles and I measured, let's say, some parameter sizes of the thermics. And so here you can see we have a diagram of a circling diameter and what is the vertical speed of the paraglider. Easily we can explain it that smaller circle you do, actually let's say the biggest is your vertical speed going down, actually, no doubt, of course. And then when you fly into the lift, so this is a thermic speed lift. In the middle usually it's the strongest, the fastest lift, and this is a climbing polar curve. So here you can see that it is important what your circling diameter is in this, let's say, thermal. This is just, I'm always thinking what is the best radio in the thermic lift. If there is a strong lift, it means that it should be a little less in diameter, and if there is a weak lift, you can make a little bigger turns to not have so much vertical speed of the glider going down. In year 2004 to 5, actually, I checked what was the time passing in the lift depending on the thermal velocity. And here you can see that the strongest was the thermal velocity, the biggest was time of the passing of the lift, what is actually normal. Here you can see that, let's say, if I have a climb speed of the thermal up to 5, maybe 6 meters, that means that if you fly through this thermal with no circling, just going like this, it takes you around 50 to 60 seconds. And then I calculate that. So it means if approximately average speed of the flying in lift is around 30 kilometers. I repeat, that doesn't mean that you are circling into 30 kilometers. You just fly over the lift, and if you do that with the average speed of 30 kilometers, that means the size of this, the diameter of this thermic, it means it's between 200 to 500 meters. So this is the size of the thermic. And of course, thermic is not the strongest in the middle. Normally, in real life profile of the thermic lift is like this, not this way. Why I'm explaining this? Because this is very important. When you are circling in group, you always have to watch out other pilots, and you can see that some pilots going up faster. But what is a common mistake, especially with in the beginner competition paragliders, that they don't want to move to the pilot who is climbing a little faster. But you always have to have in your mind this profile. So if you're climbing here, it looks like you are doing a good job, but this is not okay. You should move here because here is even stronger lift. So here I repeat, related to the diagram B, so always observe other pilots climbing crates around you, and if they are climbing faster, do not hesitate to join them. This is one very important thing on the competitions. Okay, so now we will say a few words about accelerated speed. What I mean here is accelerated speed should be used smoothly. As you know, if you press your speed bar quickly or release quickly, glider will pitch, so going back or going in front. And that is not good, because all these moves when the glider goes back or in front quickly, will actually, you're losing your altitude because of this. So avoid glider pitching front and back. That means that when you decided to go for the accelerated speed, so using your speed bar, you have to push it smoothly or slowly. So do it like 1-2 seconds when you are pushing speed bar. I normally take like 5 seconds to do full speed on the glider. Gliders are like women, they need tenderness. So, okay, so that was some skills of paragliding. So remember that when you're using speed bar, do it smoothly, take your time, let the glider catch the speed you want to have. And second thing, when you're circling in a lift, remember lifts are pretty big things, and almost always there are some areas which are actually going up faster than the area you are already in there. Yeah? So that's it. Now, what are task goals? I think that competition paragliding is quite different than, let's say, normal cross-country paragliding. What I want to explain here is, let's say, when I decide to go for cross-country paragliding, I don't do a lot of preparation for that. I just check the weather maybe, and then I'm quickly going in the takeoff. There is no a lot of preparation. I just took off, and then I decide in the air where I will fly. Yeah? But in the competition paragliding, that's not okay. So task goals are, we have to be careful on the preparation before takeoff. There is a lot of things we have to check. Then another goal in the task is start marking on time. That means when the start marker is open, you should be there on time. Let's say 1, maybe 2 minutes late. If you made it like 5-10 minutes late, that's quite a big mistake. Yesterday, actually, I did that mistake. I was late on the takeoff. I have to prepare the glider. I just get it there. And my mistake was that I took off 10 minutes before the start marker. That was because because the conditions were pretty weak. I couldn't get enough altitude to make a start marker on time. And on the yesterday task, I was like 7 minutes after the marker opening on the good position. So that was a mistake. Then next task goal is flying in a front gaggle. That's why that's what we all want to actually do. You want to be in the front gaggle all the time, and if you are all the time in the front gaggle, it means that you are ready for the final glide. And of course, the main goal of the task to get in the goal as quick as you can. So, preparation before takeoff. Of course, first thing is equipment check. I observed that a lot of pilots actually are missing this part. So that means that a lot of times it happens that some pilots forget to have batteries for their instruments, that the glider is not in, there are some knots and things like this. Yeah? So always be ready before the takeoff. So check your instruments, glider, everything should be, let's say, prepared for flying before task briefing. Then this is a discussion. Task route is also very important. When I start paragliding competitions, I always ask more experienced pilots, what do they think about the task route? Because you always have to evaluate where is the best place to wait for the start marker. Maybe in Kubala there is not a lot of options where to wait for the start marker. But in some other places you can move like 5 to 10 kilometers to get the best position before the start marker. Okay, then I always try to evaluate which is the most safe route and which is the most risky route. That means the most risky route is normally the route which is really directly from one turn point to another. So that means that it's the fastest, but usually it is not the safest or the easiest one. And the safe route is normally the route which following some routes or well-known places where to fly. But usually these routes are pretty slow. And on the task, there is a compromise between risky and safe route. Why I'm saying this, you should think about this route before on the takeoff, because then when you are in the air, it is difficult to observe all these things. But if you prepare on the takeoff before, okay, I can go this way. If this one is not working, I can go this way. This one is safest. And then you can switch easy in the air. If you are not prepared before on the takeoff, then it can be a little more difficult. Eh? And on the end, for the final glide, always search for different options for the final glide. So the fastest one, going straight, but that means that you must have enough altitude. But sometimes you can not get enough altitude for the direct final glide. So you must know before which way you can go into the goal. Let's say some following, some reach, and so on. Okay, then flying in front gaggle. What I think, during all my paragliding competition, usually first half of the task is a little bit slower than the second one. This is because pilots normally in first task look for best glides, and that means that we like to fly in a group because you know that the group glides are normally better because you can observe which pilot having the best glide or the best air, and you move to him. And normally, first part of the task, we are not, let's say, pushing full speed bar all the time. We are still using optimal accelerated speed. In a practice, that means that we are flying, let's say, 50 to 80% of the accelerated speed. Because especially on, let's say, today's competition gliders, this range of speed is very useful. If you go on a 100% of speed bar, you are losing much more than if you are flying like 60 to 70% of the speed bar. For me, this one is also important, so try not to fall behind the leading gaggle. Here I'm asked to, let's say, explain not to fall, what means not to fall behind. If you are behind the group more than 1 kilometer, it's normally pretty difficult to catch the front gaggle anymore. And I have that kind of the rule that, let's say, we are climbing under one cloud, and let's say that these leading pilots are like 200, 300 meters above me, and they just reach the cloud base and they start flying. I always remember what time they leave under the cloud, and then I say, okay, I have 1 minute time. I'm circling 1 minute, and after 1 minute I go to follow them. Because if I stay in that leaf, let's say 2 minutes, 3 minutes more, I will probably not catch the next leaf they will catch. But if I'm like 1 minute or less behind them, I will still catch their lift and climb in the next lift with them. And then final glide. This is, let's say, one of the most important and stressful part of the competition. The final glides are often flown on accelerated flight through some turbulence. That's why you should get comfortable using speed bar, also in raw air. And I think that you all have to find your limits or your comfort zone on training. I think that if you're not capable to fly on a full speed bar, this is not really good for the competition. The decision for final glide, of course, depends on the glide ratio. You can get this information from the instrument or visually. I always actually do both. From my experience, I can judge if I'm enough high enough or not. Okay. Then for the last 15 kilometers or so, pay more attention to your instrument. That means that you are always observing what is your height and what is your glide ratio to get into the goal. Then second thing for the final glide, try to get polar curve data that is suitable for your wing. This is not as easy as you think, because for the gliders E and C, E and B, there is not a lot of, let's say, useful polar curve data. Most of them are for the competition gliders. Good. And that's what I already have said, that have at least 2 ideas how to approach to the final glide. It will help you a lot if you prepare this before the takeoff. So that means from the last turn point to the goal you can go straight, but if there is not a lot of, if you don't have enough altitude, you can go another way following some ridge or something like that. On a final glide, it's also very important to carefully watch others, pilots, but do not get caught in controlling each other. That means this is especially important when you are doing last thermal. A lot of pilots, also experienced pilots, do that mistake that when we are circling in last thermal, we are just looking around to the other pilots, and we don't want to start for the final glide first. But this is normally a mistake, because you can climb, and you will climb like 200-300 meters too high, and this is the losing of the time. And if there is a generally good weather, take the risk and go first from the thermal. But of course, you have to be on the safe side. Required LD, I think, for the gliders E and B or C are probably around 7, maybe 8. For me, let's say I fly now ENSO 3, I normally have like glide ratio at 10. That's more or less my rule. When I have glide ratio to the goal 10, then I just go. If there is a normal day, if I have like some backwind, something like this, I'm not so conservative, so I can push into the final glide with a glide ratio 12, even 13. And of course, then you have to follow your glide ratio during this final glide, and if it's going down, you can push more speed. If not, you release it, and if this glide ratio is going high, that means like from 10 to 12 to 14, then you have to change your final glide direction in some other way. You're not going directly, you go to search some, let's say, better air. And the last thing in the competition is go. You always have to look your instrument for the confirmation that you actually made a goal. It is not so rare mistake that some pilots came into the goal, but they do not fly over the line. They land, but they don't have, or they don't make a goal. On the last PVC in Switzerland, there were 2 pilots made this mistake. Okay. Now this is task route. So before you make this part, before taking off, so you evaluate task route on the map. What is the best way? What is the shortest way? What is the more risky way, and so on. But the same thing you have to reevaluate in the air, because in the air you have much more information about the weather, about the conditions, than previously on the takeoff. That's why you should repeat this task again. Okay. Maybe here I will point out this one, switching between full racing and survival mode. What I mean here, during the task, a lot of times it happens that you have like really nice weather in the first part of the task. That means like you have night clouds, night climbs, and you can push full speed bar all the time. But then, let's say in the last part of the competition, you get in some area where is not a lot of, nice thermics, so climbing is slow or maybe very weak. And what you have to do in that time, you have to switch your flying mode in a, let's say, survival mode. That means that you start circling. If you have 0, you will start to circle and climb there, because in survival mode means that it is not important that you are not losing time. In survival mode means it is important you are not losing height. And in a full racing mode means it is important just not to losing time, because you can get height easily. And I think that this is one of the most difficult things for pilots, because this racing and survival mode sometimes can switch like 2-3 times during the task. And if you are not capable of switching between these two modes, normally you can be very, very late. That means that you are flying in survival mode all the task, or if you are flying full race during the task, it means you will bomb out. Yeah? I don't know how to explain how to do that, but you just must to be aware that this is very important. Sometimes you have like a minute or two to switch between these two modes. If you are flying in a full racing for 2-3 minutes, let's say too long, it's too late. On a task route, it is very important to look for the help of the ridges on your route course. What does it mean? Here you can see, I don't know, maybe it's not the best photo or picture, but this is like Kubarishki Stol. This is Kubarishki Stol Ridge. And what I want to show here, that you can fly this way. So you can reach the beginning of the Kubarishki Stol, you can climb there, go down, climb again, and so on, and reach here on the end, climb again, and go for the turn point. But this is not the fastest option. Normally, on a normal day, this one is much faster option. That means that you get on the beginning of the Kubarishki Stol, and then you are just flying straight, and you do with your brakes, but you do not actually turn. And okay, you will say, if that you will losing your height, but if you are staying in that kind of flying, so going straight, just do some brakes during the thermals and fly straight again. If you are not losing height and you are always more or less on the top of the ridge, this is perfect. You just fly there. And you can fly Kubarishki Stol from the beginning to the antenna with no circling at all. 80% of the days is like this. Every turn there is more or less weight of the time. And these techniques work more or less on all ridges like this. So normally this is the best or the fastest way. So you just go on the ridge, follow the ridge to the end, climb up there, and on the position where you have to fly out in the valley or pass on the other ridge. So make height when you have to leave ridge direction, and if altitude of the ridge is rising, your height usually will rise in the straight flight too. This thing is very important for the competition paragliding. Here on the end, I will just explain one such a valley task. So here you can see we have a takeoff on Korbala, then we have a first turn point close to Drežnica area. Second one was on Livek with the bigger cylinder, and then Mengore. And from here we have this big cylinder which actually cross all three ridges. This was Poloning, Kubarishki Stol, and here was Matayur. So this track actually shows where the, let's say, 90% of the pilots made this task. And on the next slide, you can see the other option of this task. So first, second turn point, here was a third turn point, and then I decided not to follow the gaggle here or all the other pilots. I just climb here and go this way, because this was the shortest one, yeah? And the last turn point was here. So if we take a look back, they have to go here, and then this leg was much longer for them. But why did they decide for this way? Normally, this way is much better, because we all know that current area, it's here, works pretty good. Plownik works pretty good. And here on this track, you can see that they actually didn't do any climbing. They just fly there, going there and back. But still, they were like 10 to 15 minutes late behind me, because mine was much, let's say, shorter. So why I'm giving this presentation of this track logs, because you always have to think about the routes. There is one obvious way or route you can make a task, and normally there is some routes which are not so obvious, but a lot of times faster and shorter. So some short summary or differences between cross-country and competition flying. Take more time for pre-flight preparation. You take care about your glider, instruments, so on. Then takeoff and start marker. It's totally different than on a cross-country flying. In a start marker, normally there is a big crowd. Then a line of flying rules. So be ready to change your line of flying, observing other pilots which are close to you. Speed during the flying, as I said, be gentle on a speed bar, because if you're pushing speed bar like, let's say, fast or releasing fast, you're losing your head because of this. And especially in the second part of the competition, monitor your ground speed, current LD ratio, and direction where you are flying. Okay, we are on the end of this presentation. Thank you for your attention. Do you have some questions?
Any questions? Yeah, there is one.
May I ask you, I have a question. In the beginning, you said that pilots are usually staying away from joining the other pilots in thermals, in climbing. You said this is your experience, and I'm not sure whether I understood well, or whether there are some other opinions or people feeling like this or not, because I thought that this is like that. Some pilots climb, and others just join them. And then how the cylinder of climbing looks.
In the same thermal, multiple pilots are circling and some are going up and down.
Yeah.
People hesitate to change their position in the thermal to follow the right. That's what you meant.
Yeah, exactly. This was the idea. That was the idea. I think maybe also Jože can explain more.
Yes, there were on the slide where I was explaining about these thermic cliffs. I want to explain that you must be aware that thermic cliffs have more cores. Normally, one is the fastest one, or the velocity of, let's say, middle core is the strongest one, and when you're flying, let's say alone on a cross-country flying, you are not aware of this. Let's say you find some leaves going, let's say 2 meters, maybe 3 meters per second up, but you are not aware that maybe 200 meters away there is one even faster core. But on a competition flying, because there is a lot of pilots in this lift, you can easily observe this. Okay, there is the core of the thermic, which is the fastest one, and I normally observe like 2, maybe 3 circles. So let's say I'm climbing 2 meters up, and I check one glider going up faster than me. He made a 1 turn. Okay, he's going up. I will wait a little bit. He made a second turn point. Turn. If he's still faster than me, I will definitely move there. Yeah. So don't hesitate to join them if they're climbing faster. Yeah.
Yeah, this with changing the climbs, actually this is the easiest way how you recognize the good pilots and the not so experienced pilot. If you will catch one good thermal, I don't know, you will do 1-2 turns and all the good pilots will be with you. Even if they will be, I don't know, a little bit further out. But always you can find good thermal, and there will be one pilot, let's say only 100 meters away. You will fly up like a rocket and he will do nothing. This way you can recognize that he is not so experienced. So this is the first step. It's really important. If you want to climb, you need to change the position as soon as possible. If you see somebody flying up better, change the position as soon as possible. This is really important. In the World Cup, for example, you will see this phenomenon. If somebody gets good thermal, you have immediately, if you will catch the good thermal, immediately you have 50, 60 pilots around of you. If you will be on, I don't know, on low level comp or maybe on the free flying, you can get a rocket and nobody will follow you. This is the difference. This is important. If you will catch, if you will observe, and you will go for it, you can climb it together with the good pilots, and you can make a good flight and a good altitude out of it. Any more questions? Okay, let's finish the day for today.